So, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. It's actually really nice to be able to do this presentation, given uh, the fact that the swimmers have been out of the water for so long. So it's really with great pleasure that we're able to share with you all that we're about to start swimming again. We're going back to the pool. So tonight's presentation is really about, well, this is for everyone. This is not just for those who are swimming during summer. And the reason for that is that we expect a lot of the protocols to remain in place when we go back in September, in the autumn term. So we're not expecting that to change much, in the next 5 to 6 weeks. So without further ado, I'll dive into the presentation. So tonight's presentation, it's been developed by the committee, specific members of the committee, with using the Swim England guidelines, and they're all designed. All the rules that we've put in place and the risk assessments that we've done are all designed to safeguard against COVID infection and spreading. Tonight's presentation concentrates heavily on the pre-drop-off, drop-off and check-in, how each session will be run, and collection. What you find when we go through codes of conduct is that there's more of an emphasis. It might feel a bit repetitive, but of course, we just want to make sure that everyone takes on board the guidelines and their responsibilities in this new world of COVID. And later on in the session, we'll be talking about us needing some help from, well, everyone needing some help from parents to volunteer as chaperones for each one of the training sessions, and then of course we'll talk about what 2020 looks like. Sorry, the new season looks like, and of course we'll have plenty of time for questions. If it goes by the previous session we ran just now for another group, we should be done in about 30 to 40 minutes. But feel free to ask questions along the way. Put them on the group chat, and we'll endeavour to answer them when we get to the questions section. Okay. So moving on. So before you leave home, excuse me. Important point to preface this is that if we don't follow the procedures and something does go wrong, our pool operators may take the pools back. Okay, so it's really important that we follow these procedures as outlined and the guidance on the day during training, because we don't want these locations to be shut down and taken away from us. So it's heavily reliant on everyone committing to follow the rules. What do the rules entail? So each pool has to operate differently. For the summer term, for the summer training that we're putting on starting on Sunday, we have to adhere to group sizes that are driven by the number of lanes in the pool. So, and we have to focus heavily on the entry. We have to use the entry and exit points as designated, which will be different to what you would have experienced both at Reeds and at Pool in the Park. There won't be any changing rooms in use, and toilets will be limited to emergency use only. So swimmers must use the toilet before they leave home. Okay. You will have heard this before in the press probably, that swimmers must shower at home and arrive beach ready, which really just means you have to have your swimming costume underneath some loose clothing. And when you arrive at the pool, you are ready to swim. You just take off the outer layer, put it into a waterproof bag inside your main kit bag, and you should be ready to swim. As it says on the slide, only one club bag will be allowed. which means that currently some swimmers will arrive at the pool with both their main kit bag and their netted equipment bag as well. There will be limited equipment required for the summer training, so you'll be required to have your equipment inside your main club bag, and then a separate waterproof bag, plastic bag that you can tie or seal to keep your beach ready outer layers dry during training. So as far as equipment goes, you need to keep your training equipment, you have to clean and disinfect training equipment between each session. You need to make sure that your training equipment is named, and your training equipment is only for your own personal use. There will be no sharing of training equipment. And in fact, you'll be directed poolside to store your training equipment in a specific place by the pool. So keep listening out for instructions from both from either the coaches or the COVID officers. And as it says, 2 hats, 2 goggles. Your coach will not be able to lend you items. Your other swimmers will not be able to lend you items, and your bottles must be filled and named. And for 100% clarity, every swimmer from squads 1 to 6, so these are the temporary summer squads, 1 to 6, will be required to wear a mask when not in the water. Okay, so that means when you're queuing outside, ready to before you enter, and when you're poolside outside the water, you must wear a mask. And for squad 7 to 10, I know we're not speaking to 7 to 10 at the moment, but for squad 7 to 10, it is discretionary and it's the parent's choice. Okay, so I'll move on. Oops. So arrival, so drop in and check in, drop off and check in. We're asking all swimmers to arrive at the check-in zone 15 minutes prior to the start of the session. They must arrive there right on the dot. So if you arrive there a bit early, you must wait in your car, and then once 15 minutes prior to your session, then you must go to the check-in zone, which is outside the entry point. All parents are required to ensure that their swimmers arrive safely at the check-in point, because they're different to what we have been using normally. So it's up to each parent to make sure that your swimmer is has arrived safely in the check-in point area. And then parents must wait until the swimmer has cleared the check-in area prior to them leaving the pool centre. So in other words, whilst the swimmer is going through the relevant pre-pool entry procedures, parents are required to wait, and then once they've cleared that procedure, then parents can leave. So each swimmer is to wait in the check-in zone and be directed by the COVID liaison officer / chaperone. And in the check-in zone, we require all swimmers to maintain 2 meters social distance, 2 meters distance from every other swimmer. And so, in other words, social distancing rules apply. A brief health assessment will take place, including the taking of temperature using a radar gun. So it's non-contact. It's just shone directly onto the swimmer's forehead, and the coach's decision is final. So if there are any concerns or issues, the coach on duty will make a decision as to whether or not that swimmer can swim. We're asking everyone to just bear in mind that if you're running around or you're training prior, that your temperature could be elevated. The swimmer's temperature could be elevated at that point, in which case, we would suggest that you avoid doing anything that would raise your temperature, because you know, you may be excluded because your temperature is raised, which is why we've asked parents to wait until completion of this process. And then once that process is complete, they'll be directed to go poolside, allocated a space along poolside to leave their belongings, and to remove their outer layers, place their belongings in the waterproof bag inside their kit bag. There won't be any viewing permitted for parents, and the gallery will be closed. Okay, so that's drop off and check-in. Okay, so how will the sessions be run? Each swimmer will be assigned a lane. Okay, you're not allowed to change the lane. I will on the next slide show a diagram of where you're supposed to wait in the water within the lane. So once you've been assigned a position in the water, that is your start and end position in a training length. So it'll be more obvious on the next slide, but you're to start from the position you're told to start at, and you're supposed to finish that particular part of the training at the same position. The coach will direct the swimmers when they should start the set and the length, and every effort must be made by the swimmers to maintain social distancing when stationary in the pool, so in the water. Contrary to what you might have seen in our training before, all swimmers, according to Swim England guidelines, will need to swim clockwise in every lane. Okay, so it won't be alternating. And then, Swim England guidance must be followed when passing in the lane. And there's some rules on that, which I'll cover shortly. Okay, I'll move on to the next slide, which is the slide that is not to scale, but shows the way it would work at Pool in the Park, a 6-lane pool. As you can see, each swimmer will be designated a position. So there'll be 5 swimmers per lane. And at the beginning of the training session, each swimmer will be given a number, 1 to 5. They'll be given their lane, and they'll be given a number within a number to remember, and that will designate them a position in the lane along the rope or along the wall where they need to start and finish each length of or each set of the training. Okay, so if you start at position 3, you have to end at position 3, and for the entire training session, that's where you will be. That's where you start and finish. So when you're stationary, that's where you're supposed to be. And the spaces between each swimmer are supposed to be a minimum of 2 meters. So you have to do your best to remember to stay 2 meters away from the next swimmer. Okay. So that's position of swimmers in the lane. More on, excuse me, more on training and how the training will be conducted. So the Swim England guidance tells us that training has to look a little bit different in the near term, and that we need to avoid training that requires explosive or excessive breathing, and to allow a controlled reacclimatization to training. So training will be focused on stroke technical efficiency, where movement is continuous and little time is needed for recovery. So a lot of the sets will be longer, less intense training sets. They'll be focused on drills and skills, obviously some underwater work, and like it says, focus on low to medium level of aerobic effort, and in order to avoid this explosive or excessive breathing. According to Swim England guidelines, swimmers must use freestyle to pass. Okay, so whatever the training set, they approach if they've approached the rear of another swimmer and they want to pass them, then they must change to freestyle, pass them, and then return back to the set. And then for kick sets, a flat kicking technique with face in the water is what will be expected. And then, of course, as we progress through this summer training, some short speed work will be introduced, and over short distances and stroke counts. So just remember, this deck will be made available to all of you. So so you don't have to remember everything, but almost all of this is covered in other material as well on the website currently. So collection. At the end of the session, swimmers will be required to towel dry, dress in their loose/warm and dry clothes, which they put into their plastic bags inside their kit bags. They will not be able to remove their costumes. All right, they will not be able to remove their costumes. So this sort of wrap around the towel stuff that some of the swimmers do to try and remove their wet costumes at poolside, they will not be able to do that. And the reason why they won't is because there's limited amount of time between training sessions. Okay, so particularly if you're running into the next one, and also at the end. So if you're in squad one, you might well in either the squad 1 or 2, you may be at the last session, and that is an issue with Pool in the Park as an example, where we need to get out of the pool quick smart after the completion of training. So there will be no removal of costumes because there won't be any changing rooms, and you won't have time to remove them, using the covered towel technique that some do. And then the COVID chaperone will escort swimmers to the designated exit. And more details on this will be provided on the website. At the end of each session, parents must be visible to the COVID officer or the coaches to receive their swimmers at the collection point. And parents who are waiting in the collection point, we must remind everyone to ensure that you maintain social distancing rules in the collection area, because of course that also poses a risk, and we wouldn't want that to cause the shutdown of a pool or the exclusion of swimmers from swimming. And as normal, parents are asked to ensure a timely arrival 10 minutes prior to the end of the session, because we will be looking to move the swimmers out as quickly as possible to prepare for the next session. So there will be some change over time. So we really do need you to be there at the latest 10 minutes prior to the end of the designated session. So moving on, code of conduct. So this is for swimmers. So these are the key things to remember. The first is that you must wear your face mask if you're in 1 to 6 when you're not in the water. Okay. The masks are to be provided by each swimmer. The club won't be providing masks, and our suggestion is to make sure that these masks are material in nature, so fabric, as opposed to paper-based, because we expect that those will become quite soggy and not comfortable or usable if they get wet. As I said before, if you're in 7 to 10, then it's the parent's discretion for wearing a mask. You can only enter the pool when instructed to do so by the COVID liaison officer / chaperone. You must bring your own hand sanitizer and use it before you join the check-in queue. Whilst you're in the, at all times during training, before and after, you should be looking to ensure that you're 2 meters away from any other swimmer, and that you must be at the check-in zone 15 minutes prior to the start of your session, so that you can be ready for check-in and pre-pool preparation. And of course, you must have used the loo at home and showered and arrived at the pool beach ready. So in other words, your costume's underneath your loose clothing. And you'll be instructed by your coaches on what kit, what training aids you will require, you're required for your specific group. Okay. Parents, These are things we need you to do. We need you to make sure that your emergency contact details are up to date in Team Unify. We need you to continue to follow government guidelines on self-isolation rules and keep the swimmers' medical information where necessary up to date in Team Unify. And all parents must complete the health questionnaire and the consent form. The health questionnaire was sent to everyone with a password, and it was a Google Doc on Friday. And the consent form is part of the Team Unify consent journey. If you, for some reason, haven't received that, please let me or Nigel know on the emails that I'll share later. Yep, parents need to maintain social distancing in the waiting areas, and again, arrive 15 minutes prior. If you arrive a bit earlier than that, wait in your car, and at exactly 15 minutes before, be at the check-in zone. And all parents must wait until clearance has been given. And all parents need to be aware that you will not be allowed to enter the pool area, okay? Because there won't be any gallery space, and we need to, part of our risk assessment and the procedures set and agreed with the pool operators is that we can't have spectators. Last reminder, same thing again, make sure that you know and adhere to the drop-off and collection policy. If you have any concerns or clarifications, please feel free to email us at the emails below. Obviously, welfare-related concerns would need to go there, and anything more broad related to the procedures and the code of conduct go to the COVID email address. Lots of people are manning those, so we have no problems. We should be able to get back to you quite quickly. So this is the plea for volunteers. I said this earlier. We need at least 2 chaperones per training session. So we'll be looking for your help to volunteer. We should be coordinating this generally through the squad reps, the existing squad reps, but we know that that isn't quite perfect because they're, the relevant swimmers may be in the same squad now. So more guidance on that will come out shortly. But if you're interested, please just drop us an email and we'll do what we can to connect you through to the relevant squad rep. What the squad reps will do. So there's no experience necessary. It's very simple. The requirements that from a chaperone, what a chaperone needs to do. They'll be supporting the checking in and health screening and attendance record taking at prior to entry to the pool. They'll liaise with the coach should the chaperone believe that a swimmer may have failed screening. So the lead coach of that session will make the final decision. So the chaperone will only just raise their concern with the coach, and the coach will make the final decision. So they will be required to help maintain social distancing at check-in and exit points. And they will be at poolside during each session to help manage social distancing of swimmers, to remind swimmers to maintain social distancing. They may be needed to escort swimmers to the toilet facility, but definitely will not be going in. And in the event that there are incidents, then they would be required to maintain an incident log. And then at the end of the sessions, they need to submit health screening, incident log, and attendance record onto a Google Drive, all of which will be very simple to do. So that is the plea for help with volunteers. What does the remainder of 2020 bring? So what we're clear about is that there'll be limited external competition during September and October. So the last few months, all open meets. We expect that there wouldn't be open meets during these 2 months. However, we are looking to run our club champs and adapt our training sessions to accommodate the club champs. We're hoping that as more advice is given in September from Swim England, that we may be able to hold our December Dasher meet, for which we already hold a licence. And we're working with the Surrey County ASA regarding qualification times for the next year's county champs. So that is an open item on the county committee at the moment. What do we know about training in September? We know that fewer swimmers will be in the water per pool. Training will incorporate new socially distanced approaches, some of which we're sharing with you this evening. The challenge for us as a committee is that pool time remains a scarce resource, and not all the pools will come back up immediately, depending on the operator. But we are working with everyone, with all our pool operators, to bring them back as soon as possible. And you know, the main aim of the committee is to keep as many swimming as possible. But you know, part of the challenge for us will be to strike the right balance between pool hours, so swimming hours, fewer swimmers in each session, and of course the training fees. So more of that detail will be provided as soon as we possibly can do it. It is our next job as a committee once we get everyone swimming again next week. Okay. So with that, I'm happy to open up to questions. I know there's loads of questions that have been asked, and some of them have been answered already. Before we open up to questions, I'll just quickly say that if you have any specific questions around coaching and the training sets and the like, or something specific to your swimmer, start with your coach. All of their details are on the website as normal. If it's a welfare related query, it goes to the welfare officer. If it's a broader COVID related query, it should go to the COVID email. And for any other general query, you're welcome to email directly back to the committee email address, which all the committee members receive. On the call tonight, or on the Zoom tonight, we've got Nigel, who's been answering lots of the questions already on the group chat, and we've got Doug Howell, who's also on. So I'm very happy at this point to pause there. And Nigel, if you want to open up for questions, you can either post more questions on the group chat, or raise your hand and Nigel will unmute you and you can ask your question. While we're doing that, I might just try and answer some of these questions. Will the coaches be still running land training via Zoom on the days that the children do not swim? At this stage, because it clashes mostly actually with the schedule, the answer is no. We are looking at incorporating land training into the regimen, but at this stage, no. The answer is no to that. The question on from the Melvilles, might Surrey ASA lower county qualifying times for 2021? I speak with no authority whatsoever, but all the conditions are being taken into account. Jules Burville is our rep. Well, she's part of the county committee, and last I heard from her is that they are looking at addressing the qualifying times with reference to the fact that the swimmers haven't been in the water for so long. Yes, so this is from the Trojanoviches. We will send you the pool in the park check-in and check-in and exit point. Nigel has an action to meet up with them next week. The pool isn't online until the 3rd of August. And once we have the information, it will be made available to everyone. Okay.
The diagrams are already in the pickup guidelines.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Is that the single entry exit point diagram?
No, but it'll be one of those exits, so we'll modify it slightly.
Yeah. Yes, have a look at what's online, but it may be that we'll only be using one point to enter and exit, because at the moment there's building works happening at the pool in the park. Cool. Any other questions that we haven't answered on here?
So if you'd like, you can now unmute yourselves and ask a question.
Oh, we've got Ruth on as well, so you can answer some questions as well, Ruth.
Okay. What was the question, Ray? Sorry.
No, I'm just saying that you're on as well. So being a committee member, you can also answer a question for sure. Okay, lift shares. We've had this one before. Lift shares are outside the club's purview. If you read the government guidelines, you'll probably recognise that it's not recommended, but the club hasn't got an official position on it because it's not within our purview. Okay. I know that's a bit of a dodgy way of answering the question, but it is the only answer we can give. Are you expecting to get all the club champs events in?
In my view.
Nigel, you're breaking up. I think the answer is we'll do our best, but it needs to be tailored towards the events that we're able to train for, and the events that we can hold safely. So at this point, we haven't got any more of an answer than that for the Reeves.
Yeah, there's a question about swimmers taking over. Well, there won't be any relays, so it will be individual events, won't it?
How do they? Oh no, I think this is passing in the pool. Okay, this is passing in the pool. So can I just? I'll just repeat what I said before. When you're passing in the pool during a training set, you have to swap. No matter what you're doing, you have to swap to freestyle, accelerate past the swimmer, and then return in front of the swimmer.
Breathe in the opposite direction.
Yeah, and breathe in the opposite direction. So you're not to breathe over the swimmer that you're passing. Okay. So
you've got a question about the DBS check here for the.
Yeah, I think it's come up twice from the Vandalace.
Yeah, they're not actually going to be on their own with the children. They're going to be poolside in full view of everyone.
Yeah, that's the reason it's not required.
They don't actually take them to the toilet outside of view. They will stand in distance viewing.
Yeah. It's something we're very conscious of, and we would expect the two chaperones to look after each other. So they'll be looking out for each other, which is the general way of addressing that concern.
Compromise.
Yeah.
In terms of Alex's question, the answer is no. You'd have to bring enough bottles for your session. You wouldn't be allowed to go to the sink just to refill a bottle.
Yep. And then so from the Platts, it's both my two children. Yes, is the answer. The pools will change as September opens and we get more pools online. So this temporary summer schedule that we published, as we get more pools coming up, then the schedules will completely change, different days, different times, etc., for the different squads. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I mean, beyond that, we can't say much more because we don't know which pools are fully coming up, all the pools that are coming online at the beginning. But it is pretty much a dead certainty it will not look like what we've got now. So as soon as we get everyone back in the water, we'll be working as a committee to get the September the autumn term sorted out. There's been work done on it already, but the focus over the last couple of weeks has just been to make sure that we get back into the water as soon as possible.
It's a good question here about water bottles. I don't know whether we've thought of that, because obviously if you start in the middle of the pool and end at the middle of the pool, your water bottle's not tied to the lane rope, is it?
No.
Maybe there's going to be scheduled drink breaks or something like that when they all go down.
You swim to the wall, you take a drink, you put it back on the side, and then you duck off and you swim, carry on. That's the only way you can do it. And the water bottles will have to be put on separate sides of the lane, and the middle one up the other end will need to be on top of the block.
There we go.
So, and then it'll be basically, so I'm just trying to think which way we're swimming here. So I think as we're going down the right, if I remember from the diagram. So swimmer number 1 will be on the right. Swimmer number 2 will be on top of the block. Swimmer number 3 will be on the left. And then at the other end, it's just swimmer 4 on the left and swimmer 5 on the right.
Yep.
But we'll explain that on the day.
And there's a question mark about if they overtake someone, well, they need to go back to the starting and finishing part that they've been allocated, really. They don't then take that person's place.
That's a good question. I don't know. Let me have to think about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. In theory, they do have to go back because you'll only get one number for the entire session. But I'll leave that with you, Mark. It might well get impractical. It might well get impractical. Any other questions?
There was a question earlier on about the different temperatures of the gun. So I understand that I think there's a broad brush temperature for everybody, but obviously younger children have a higher temperature safe than older people, don't they, at the end of the day? So I think the gun has 2 settings for different age groups, and it will just flag up red, as long as you've got it set on the right age group.
Actually, it's got 4. It can be 0 to 2, 3 to 10, 11 to 65, or 65 and over.
Yeah.
So for all the senior swimmers. Yeah.
In the club.
No one's that old, apart from me.
So I think someone said 38 degrees. Well, I think that's a broad brush, 38 degrees, whereas these are specific for age groups.
Yeah.
That'll be a bit high.
Yeah. So another one on the Q&A, it'll be published to the website. Mark, are we swimming all strokes?
Yes.
All those people who don't like butterfly, sorry. Yes, so we said, okay, next question was about the kit bag. So yes, no mesh bags. You're allowed 1 bag, so you could theoretically use your mesh bag and put a plastic bag or a sealable bag inside of that. But you're only allowed 1 bag. We recommend you use your normal swimming kit bag, and inside of that you have a plastic bag which you can seal with your dry clothes inside it, where you can put your dry clothes inside it. Yeah. And Mark will advise, well, the relevant lead coach will advise what kit is appropriate for training during the sessions.
Is that going out on a separate email, Mark?
Yeah, it will be, mate. We're just trying to discuss like how we're going to start, how much we're going to start with, and then what we're going to do from there. So I'll have that out soon, probably, hopefully tomorrow afternoon, maybe Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Okay, next question was about the teaching pool. The short answer is it's unlikely to be available during the summer. Because there's ongoing pool works at Pool in the Park. We did ask about it. We wanted desperately to do more with associates at Pool in the Park, but unfortunately it doesn't look like it'll become available in time. So at this point, the answer is it's unlikely to come up before the autumn term. Yeah. But we do have the sessions happening at Reeds. So yeah. Any other questions? Okay, I might do a quick wrap up. Usually people think about questions when I'm wrapping up, so feel free to butt in and ask another question. Okay, so firstly, big plug again for chaperones. We really need volunteers. So please, if you can, reach out to your existing squad rep or drop us a note at the COVID email address, and we'll record your interest, because we need 2 for every session, and without your support, we won't be able to run all the sessions. All the contact details are on the last slide of this deck. All of them are also available on the website. Start with the coaches if it's about coaching, and of course welfare goes to the welfare email address. Rules about shoes on poolside. The rules are the normal rules. No pools on, no shoes, no outdoor shoes on poolside. That was a question just come up during that.
Presumably they take them off as they enter the pool deck.
Yeah. It's actually a good question. It's a very good question.
I've got a question for you, Ray. You mentioned about going to freestyle when you're overtaking someone. Is that for when you're on backstroke as well?
Yeah, because that's what the Swimming England guideline says. You flip over and you go past. I don't know how a swimmer could pass effectively without going straight over top of a swimmer off backstroke. So
no, well, you can, but the fact is that you do have to pass as quickly as possible. So going to freestyle is the fastest way. Okay. So you do have to go to freestyle in all strokes.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Look, a big thanks for big attendance tonight. We're really pleased to be able to share that we're starting swimming again on Sunday. It's been a long time coming, so we thank you very much for your support and your patience during this time, and we'll do everything we can to communicate to you as soon as possible with any news with regards to the autumn term. Oh, I should say, because people might be asking this actually, when you will get invoiced for the summer swimming. So it might save a few emails. Jules is working hard to get the numbers all finalised, and you'll be invoiced, should be within the next week. And it'll all be through the normal process. And she will kill me if I don't say this. We're hoping for prompt payment because during these last 4 months, it's all been outgoings for the club. So anything you can do to just make sure you do the whole process in one go would be very well appreciated. So thank you in advance for that. Okay, Heather, when you are swimming, do you keep a 2 metre distance drill? When you're swimming, no. When you're stationary, yes, you're supposed to try. And your positions in the lane should reflect that. That was another question just got posted on the chat. So lots of good questions here. We'll save these and we'll put these onto our onto the website as part of the FAQs. Okay.
And the slide deck as well, isn't it, going on there?
Yeah, and the deck's going on there as well. Yeah. So if there aren't any more questions, we will let you go. And it's been our pleasure to be able to do this and put everyone back in the water. Thanks again.